go live. It says you are live.
Ah, there it says it. Yeah, a little thing popped up in the corner.
All righty then. Let's see what's going on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live broadcast. We are actually going to start in just a few seconds here, just making sure everything is up and running. Yep, it looks like we are good.
I'm trying to check it too, but I'm not logged in.
Yep. Awesome. Always have to check that out. Okay, so we are live on Facebook. Are you ready to go, Eric?
I am good to go. I got football on my screen because baseball is disappointing right now, but we'll get into that.
Okay. Awesome.
Is my...
Eric's looking for his soul.
Where did it go? I can't type. Yeah, I feel like I look like the Bruce Almighty. The way my angle is right now, I do. I totally feel that way. It's so funny because I keep seeing like a random pinky or something. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm just trying to log into Facebook. Who the hell remembers their Facebook password?
Oh, you've been hacked.
I don't know what it is. No, I switched browsers, so it's not logged in there.
Yeah. Look at all the people watching right now. We got a big fat goose egg. That's okay. We didn't promote this at all. We're just doing this so it's up there on the stream so people can watch it later.
I mean, plus we're trying out this StreamYard thing, so.
Yeah, trying out StreamYard so it's not as clunky as the other stuff. Not as sexy, but it kind of is too. So, okay. I think we are good to go. Here we go. In 3, 2. It's Monday, October 5th, 2020, and this is episode 210 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and look, my Twitter handle is right here. You can see it. And joining me today is, my hand doesn't go into his screen, though, is Eric Nathanson. What's up, man? How you doing?
There it is. There it is. I'm doing well. It's weird, because it's total reflection. So I'm pointing.
I'm like,
Right. I'm pointing to my right, but to me, I'm seeing at my left. And yeah, technology, you'd think that over the age of 40, we wouldn't be fascinated, but here we are. I'm doing well. I'm glad that we had baseball back today because it was weird not having any playoff baseball all weekend, but I kind of get it. They had to travel to the bubble and they had to compete with NFL and NBA. So yeah. I get it. But I mean, you're the one who's got exciting stuff. You get to go on an expedition. What, next week?
Yeah, I boarded the vessel on Friday. Yeah, we had all sorts of cool stuff today. We had a live broadcast that I was featured on. It was like 45 minutes long, but if you just want to see little bits and pieces, go to nautiluslive.org or check out their Facebook page, Nautilus Live, and you'll see it there. It's for the Central Coast or Central California National Marine Sanctuaries. But we're not here to talk about that. We are going to talk about baseball. And even though we had the postmortem last week for the Giants season, they are out of it, of course. But Wild Card Series was actually pretty fun. I still have reservations about this year, but again, it's 2020. It's an experiment. They're just throwing the cards up in the air and letting us see, how they fall. The Wild Card Series, of course, featured 16 teams. Never happened before in baseball. I feel like an equal of the NBA and the NHL, and I don't like it. We had 2 teams that were under 500 that made the playoffs, including the Astros and the Brewers. And the Astros are the subject of much of our chagrin that we'll get to later. But all the Wild Card Series are over. But I did want to say that one day that we had 8 games. Wow. That was pretty cool, actually. I did like that.
That was a blast. I managed to sneak a nap in and still get parts of every single game at some point. See all the important parts because there was that was the day that the Yankees and Indians played that like marathon with rain delays too. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of like came out of my stupor of a nap and was like, wait, why is this game still going? It shouldn't be going this late here on the West Coast. It was fantastic. I loved it. I would love if we got it every year for the playoffs, but I don't think 16 teams is the answer. So there's got to be some other variation. Maybe they've talked about the number 1 seed gets a bye, and then the other 3 series play. So maybe at 7 teams, it's a little different. But I loved having 8 games during the day. It's better than the 4 games in one day that we usually get in the division series. Mm-hmm. And ironically, we're going to get that at least 2 days in a row this week. Tuesday and Wednesday.
That's right.
Yeah, because there's no off days in these division series. And It would have been more exciting if there was more exciting baseball. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much you saw certain teams that don't know how to hit the ball. But the Cincinnati Reds couldn't hit. The Chicago Cubs couldn't hit. Um, let's see, Minnesota Twins couldn't hit. It was like, and it gets like so amplified. And people are like, well, it just shows that they played weak schedules during the year. But yeah, it's a 3-game series. Anything can happen. And if you don't hit, you lose. And I think the story coming out was really that the AL and NL Central went 0-7 combined.
Isn't that crazy? The NL Central had 4 teams. 4 teams more than any other division, and they were 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 for 4. I mean, that's hard. That's hard.
Hey, at least the Cardinals won a game. I mean, good for them.
Yeah, that's true. The Cardinals did win, and they won the first game, right? So you're like, oh man, they might knock the Padres out. But yeah, so some of the regulars moved on. Of course, the Dodgers, that was no surprise against the overmatched Brewers. That really wasn't much of a series. Atlanta just trounced the Reds. I mean, don't get me wrong, one game went extra innings and it was a marathon. Then it was a pitcher's duel. And to be honest, the Reds should have won that game 3 or 4 times.
4 different times, right?
They had the bases loaded, runners at first and third, runners at first and second. I mean, they had 4 or 5 innings where they had runners in scoring position with no or 1 out. And they could never knock them in. And
you would have thought that they were using the rule to start a runner on second during those extra innings because the Reds had base runners in traffic every single inning. But
every single inning. And if they had just knocked one of them in, they probably would have won. But alas, that was a great game by Trevor Bauer as well. And he admittingly probably threw them, the offense a little under the bus after the game with his post-game comments. Mm-hmm. But that's what you need to expect from Trevor Bauer. I'm just bouncing around here from kind of, the upsets as well. Tampa Bay, that was as expected. They were the number 1 seed. Cleveland and New York, the 4-5, you can't really say that's an upset. Obviously, they're more evenly matched, generally speaking. And the Yankees did pull that one out. They just mashed. So unfortunately, the evil empire has moved on to the division series against the Rays. The Astros, just talked about him just a second ago, but look, the Brewers got in at 29-31, and the only reason they got in over the Giants was because of that stupid tiebreaker, which I get it. They all agreed to it, so it wasn't, new to them, to anyone. But the intra-divisional record was better, even though the Giants had better batting average, better run differential, better, stats across the board. Obviously played in a tougher division. Their strength of schedule was harder. I mean, every metric aside from a 1-game differential and intra-divisional gameplay records, was totally in the Giants' favor. And of course, that record is only reflective of the fact that the Central is a lot weaker by 17 games, mind you, than the West. That was a long way of saying I'm still bitter.
I mean, come on. Like, the Giants could have at least scored a run or few against the Dodgers. They would have put up a better showing than the Brewers did. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, they went 4-6 against the Dodgers, right? So they probably would have won 1 game, at least put up a showing. Who knows? The Astros were also 29-31, but yet they were the number 2 seed in the West because the West also stunk in the American League. And they got in. And, of course, in any other year, they would not have even sniffed the playoffs at being under 500. But they did. They moved on to play the Central Division winning Twins. And, I mean, they beat them. So, they've moved on. And unfortunately, I know Eric had picked the White Sox to go all the way. And the A's crushed those ideas. Of course, I thought it was a good series. That was one of the more competitive series. I thought it was back and forth. It was fairly evenly matched. And the A's ended up just getting the better of them on that last game. I think it was 6-4 or whatever. But the A's move on. And I was looking at picks today. So I put in my picks last night, which we'll talk about. But today I reviewed some of the experts' picks. And out of most of the series, the division series, the one that was most lopsided in my brief view of picks was the A's Astros. Everyone was going with the A's. Everyone was A's. They're so much better. They're so much better. They won 7 out of 10 games. They have a better lineup. They have better pitching. The Houston won't be able to reload because they don't have any off days. They're using all these things. I myself had picked the Astros last night just because I hate them so much, so I know they're going to win. And sure enough, what's the score right now, Eric? 10-5.
It was 10-5, yeah.
Yeah, it's 10-5, and that's the final. It is now a final.
That's where I was going.
So Houston has now gone up on the A's 1-0, and of course it's a best of 5. So Houston only needs to win 2 out of the next 4.
And of course, the team with the losing record has won 3 straight in the playoffs and has the best record thus far in the playoffs.
Right? I mean, hey, look, Giants fans are very familiar with this, as you know, getting in as a wild card in 2014 and running the table, but that's different than being under 500. So, and getting those artificial spots, I guess you can call it.
But to be fair, if the Giants were doing this kind of crap, we'd be ecstatic. So,
well, look, you're right. If the Brewers had, just to make an argument of under 500, if the Brewers had lost one more game, the Giants would have been in at 29-31. So you're absolutely right about that. And we would have been like, oh, the Giants are in. I can't believe they lost the first round. Oh, no, what are they going to do? But if they had moved on, we would have said, oh, my God, this is great. They stuck it to the Dodgers, and who knows what's going to happen. But the Astros have that cheating element attached to them, which just bugs everyone. Yeah, you had San Diego and St. Louis, which you mentioned just a second ago. I mean, what'd you think about that series? That was a fun series to watch.
So much fun. Oh my God. That one was a ball. It was so funny. I was at a casino at a sports book when Tatis homered to bring them within 1, and then Machado homered to tie the game, and then Myers homered in the next or 2 innings later, and then Tatis homered again. And it was like, I have not seen a baseball team get that kind of reaction from people all season. It was just the Padres are fun. Everybody seemed to have fun with that, and the fact that it was the Cardinals. I mean, yeah, it's good that they knocked off the Cardinals, but it's just that was the most fun series of all of them. It was that surge that the Padres did. They hit 5 home runs after the 6th inning in that game. No playoff team had ever done that in history. So,
oh wow,
right. I couldn't believe that it had never been done before. Just on the first part of it. But the Padres made that series fun because the Cardinals are boring as F, and they got Paul Goldschmidt and I guess Matt Carpenter. I don't know. Everybody. I don't even know who's on the Cardinals anymore.
Adam Wainwright. Yeah, I mean they have some of these older guys that have been there since they were playing the Giants in the playoffs in like 12 and 14.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I don't mind the Padres making it. I think they're like the Giants' little cousin, and they're definitely up and coming. And you can kind of smell some. And not that the Giants hit 5 home runs after the 6th inning in their first playoff run, but there's a little bit of that air from kind of just their first time getting in the playoffs with this group of kids and some of these upstarts. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I know at the back of my mind. And the Padres are fully capable of beating the Dodgers. Don't get me wrong. They're offensively equipped to do so. And Clevinger, which they thought he was going to be out, apparently is going to pitch in the division series now. So we'll see how that goes. I'm suspect because, he's been hurt. So I don't know if he's going to perform well. But the Dodgers' nemesis in the playoffs has always been the St. Louis Cardinals. They just cannot beat the Cardinals. So there was a little part of me that was pulling for the Cards just because – they're the Achilles heel for the Dodgers, but it'll be an interesting NL West showdown. Yeah, I mean that game. Just to go back to it, Game 3 of the wild card series, the Cardinals had a 4-0 lead in that game, and by no means is that insurmountable, of course. But they were 53-1 when having a lead of 4 runs or more. I mean, not this year, but
it happened. That's the best part about this, though.
Yeah.
We never know what's going to happen with these kind of games. And I love the new blood with the Padres. We need new blood. I mean, look at these teams. Yeah. The Rays are kind of new blood, but they've still been there. The A's are kind of, but they've still been there. The Braves, this is like their 4th year in a row in the playoffs. The Marlins are new blood, but aside from the mascot, Billy the Marlin, I couldn't name anybody on the Marlins. So Don Mattingly is still managing over there.
I was going to say, we got Derek Jeter's the owner. Don Mattingly's the manager. Wait, player? Oh, you want me to players? Oh, I know
who Sixto Sanchez is now because apparently he's the young stud that's like the Pedro Martinez Jr. that they've been touting there. But I don't even want the Marlins necessarily, but it'd be nice to just have some different things. That's what makes the Padres so refreshing. I don't care if Tatis is flipping his bat 10 stories in the air. I don't care.
No.
These guys, they're having fun at this point, and the Padres present us with a new option. But I wish Dodgers Padres was a 7-game series. I really wish it was the LCS. I wish we were getting this to decide the World Series, but it's weird that they all fell in line. West versus West, both AL and NL, and then East versus East because the Central. Just so it's almost weird that they're like true division series in a sense this year.
They are, yeah, and we were just mentioning that none of the 4 NL Central teams made it past the first round, but the same thing in the AL. You have the Sox, the Twins, and the Indians. You had 3 teams in the Central all get bumped too. So, like you said, 0 for 7 for Central teams. That's hard to do. That's just weird.
Yeah.
It's a statistic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've never seen a playoff structure like this, but I don't recall seeing anything like this before. And like I said, it's easy to say, well, obviously they had a weaker division and they weren't as good as the other teams. But these are 3-game series we're talking about. You get one ball bouncing one way, it starts an avalanche of an inning, and if you're not fielding or you're not hitting, you're screwed and you're out of the playoffs. That's what made this so exciting this year, but I don't know if I'd want to revisit it. Did you like having this many? I mean, was it too much to keep track of? Did you like this going forward, or do you think if they cut it down by like 1 or 2 teams, they might be able to get it right?
The only thing that I would entertain, from my opinion, my point of view, for the playoffs is what you had mentioned earlier, the number 1 seed getting a bye in the first round. I think that could give some play, especially down the stretch when a team or several teams have locked up their division and they don't care too much if they're number 1 or 2 seed. And in fact, a lot of times a team may jockey or want to be a number 2 seed or even a number 3 seed, depending on
matchups.
What they think their matchup is going to be. Yeah, I mean, you're going to play maybe a lower seeded team as number 1, but it might be a team you just don't play well against because they have your number or whatever, or they have some lefties that dominate you or whatever it is. So, I think adding in that number 1 bye would be really, really good. I mean, the only problem with that again is, imagine again 2 teams tie for first place, and then they got to do the head-to-head record, and it's skipping a whole series based off of like a win difference or something is a little harsh. But again, I would still take that because it would give a little bit of motivation to these top seeded teams to go for that number 1 spot. Other than
it really would.
Of course, currently they get the home field advantage all the way through the World Series, and that is valuable in a normal year, not as valuable this year since they're playing at neutral sites. But yeah, normally we have 5 teams from each league. I would entertain 6. I would keep the same playoff format, add an extra team, and then bump the number 1 seed up. So I think what you would do in that case is you just have the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you have the 2 6 seeds again play the 6 and 5. I know I'm confusing everything here. Basically have the same wild card system that we had before, except expand that to 3 games. I'd like to see that as a 3-game series instead of a winner takes all. And then the winner of that goes into the rounds. But yeah, I see my flaw in my logic here with the number 1 seed skipping. Well, you get what I'm going for. I don't like 16 teams in there. I don't.
No, I don't either. I think they might end up settling on 14 and doing the bye and having 3-game series, the 2 versus the 7, the 3 versus the 6, the 4 or 5 again, and take the 8 seed out of it and bypass the 1 into the division series.
Yeah,
it's like football. That's what they're doing this year with football. There's only 1 bye now. And so teams have to fight not to have to play that first weekend, not to have to, in baseball, it's teams have to fight not to have to use up their pitching the way they don't necessarily want to have to use up their pitching. And I like that wrinkle of the bye just because you're right. Teams don't necessarily play for the number 1 seed. Baseball is a sport where if a team is confident in itself, it'll say, I can win no matter where we are. It doesn't matter as long as we have the right matchups. Matchups mean more than home field advantage. Regardless of batting first, batting last. So I like that idea. I thought it was fun having these 3-game series. And after these 3-game series, I don't want any more single wildcard games. I do want at least a 3-game series. I think it was a little more fair this time. The A's were a better team than the White Sox. They showed it. The who was the other one? The Padres were a better team than the Cardinals. They showed it. They just happened to lose the first game, and so they were able to recover instead of just losing that one game. And that's what I kind of liked about it. So, I mean, it's made for fun. Now we start the regular playoffs. This is like any other year, except for the fact that the American League is playing in San Diego and LA, and the National League is playing in Arlington and Houston. And it was a little weird watching the A's wear home whites at Dodger Stadium today. I will agree. But it really didn't matter. Since it's 2020, it really didn't feel like it mattered at all.
Yeah, these are things that would flip us out just, a year or two ago. And now we're just kind of used to it. Like, all right, whatever. The alien ships are coming down too.
Right.
That last series that we didn't talk about yet, I admit I watched maybe 3 innings of it. Just my schedule never synced up with the Cubs and the Marlins. But I know that your significant other is a big Cubs fan. And so I know you were watching these games. I saw you active on Twitter during them. So, I mean, give me your impression and maybe a little bit of anecdotes of her frustration.
Well, thankfully, she was sick on Friday when they did the game 2, and she slept through most of it. She kind of woke up right when the Marlins hit their homer, I think, to take the lead. It was some of the most boring baseball I've ever watched.
Really?
It was horrible. It was like a September game between two teams that are 25 games out of it. Nobody could hit. Like after game 1, my wife already wrote them off. She was like, that's it. They're done. And everybody wants to break up the Cubs. They don't know how. And there's talk that Theo might step down. But everybody wants to break up the Cubs, and even my wife's like, okay with that. She's like, don't trade this guy and don't trade that guy, but I don't care about everything else anymore.
Yeah.
Cubs fans have reached that 5-year window, end of it. They've reached 17, 18, 19, and 20, so 4 years since. They've reached the end of that window where they're like, okay, these players didn't do it again. Let's try something new. So she was frustrated, but I mean, when your team has hit as badly as the Cubs have for 2 straight years, you kind of expect it. That feeling we have going into Giants games when we just know they're beat. When the game starts and they seem lethargic and they never seem into it. That's what the Cubs were the entire series.
Really? Yeah. No, they just looking at the box scores and the highlights. Yeah, it looked like they
scored 1 run. I think the Happ home run. I think that was the only run they scored, if I recall correctly.
Wow. That is...
Yeah, and I hate this, the Marlins have never lost the playoff series. Well, I mean, this one doesn't really count. Let's settle down, everybody. Let's see if the Marlins can beat the Braves. Then we'll tout them as this uber amazing franchise. But it's true. They have never lost a playoff series. They've made the playoffs 3 times. They've never won their division. And they've won the World Series each of the previous 2 times they've made the playoffs. So as we joked before the season started, hey, Marlins Mariners World Series, half of it could come true.
Hey, you know what? You're absolutely right about that. I didn't think about that. Oh man, that is kind of scary. So I was curious. Let's see. I'm gonna bring something up here. I'm bringing up the brackets here on the screen. So I figured since we have this up, we might as well just jump to our predictions before we talk a little bit of Giants right now. But I've got my picks and you've got yours. So let's go ahead and start with. Oh yeah, first of all, let me go back to our notes here, which you guys can see, and kind of review our picks. And last week, it looks like, as I try to get this, it's just going to jump all over the place. All right, I myself just barely finished above 500 at 5-3. So, and you were 4-4, of course.
How the hell? Oh my God! I totally thought I got the Minnesota and Houston one. I thought I went 0-4 in the AL. I swear to you, my rooting interest went 0-4. So that must have been why I thought that.
Willie, I didn't get his. He didn't supply his American League picks when we talked last week, except for Toronto. I remember that. I'd written it down. But as far as the National League, we all had the exact same picks. That was just weird. And all of us were 2-2. We missed on Chicago and Cincinnati. The American League, I hit 3 out of 4. You got 2 out of 4. Willie missed Toronto, but so overall, we're not experts. But it's a 3-game series. What are you going to do, right? All right, so let's talk about this week or the division series. Let's just start up in the upper corner here. We got Tampa Bay and New York. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Tampa Bay. We always call them the upstart, but of course, they made the playoffs when Evan Longoria was there. They've made it all the way to the World Series before, so it's not like they've never been there before. But they really took care of Toronto like nobody's business. They were dominated really the American League East this year. So for that reason, even though the Yankees sometimes seem to pull it out, they haven't been to the World Series since 2009. And they keep making a point about it. And they've made the playoffs so many times. So I'm going to continue with that trend. And I do think that Tampa Bay is actually going to take care of the Yankees. What about you?
I'm on the other side. As much as it pains me to say it, I think the Yankees will beat Tampa. I think this is the first chance the Yankees have had all season to have their entire lineup together. And when you just constantly have mashers like Stanton and Judge and Voit coming one after another, as long as your pitching is half decent, you should be okay. And I feel like the Yankees, this is the time that they're coming together and gelling as a team. They just seem like they're in that zone of that team that's ready. I want to pick Tampa. Pitching is a huge reason why I want to pick Tampa. But I just... There's something to be said for the Yankees being there before. I guess, you know what, I'm putting too much weight in that. I just think the Yankees are more talented. So I'll take the Yankees, but I think it goes the distance.
So full 5 games for them.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't mention how many games.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
Tampa Bay took 5.
But...
Yeah. So back to the Astros. I had already mentioned this before, but just because they have usurped the Yankees as my evil empire of the American League. So as well, a lot of people, and to think that I was rooting for these guys back in 2017, I really was. I Sports Illustrated made that big, deal out of it when they predicted it 3 years earlier on the cover, all that stuff. They were the up and coming. They were like, oh, look at all these homegrown talent, and to just find out they just cheated and they cheated and they cheated. So that's it. I mean, forever and ever and ever, until the whole regime changes, right? I mean, from owner down to the 25th, 26th man on the roster is when I'll finally maybe move on with, okay, they are now absolved of their sins because no one's left that participated. But for right now, I just cannot stand the Astros. I can't believe they got in under 500. And just for that reason, I had picked them. I did this last night. I picked them over the A's. And the only reason is because that, but also the A's, even though they finally won their first playoff series since 2006. I mean, they just were failure after failure after failure. I don't think this is going to start an excellent run for them. And sure enough, Houston goes out and wallops them today 10-5. So now they got a distinct advantage of pulling out this series.
Yeah, when I mentioned teams that have been there before, the Astros fall right into that category. And, the 29-31 doesn't matter at this point. The only thing that matters to them, Correa's got this chip on his shoulder. He's spouting off. And to be fair, he backed it up. He hit 2 homers today. Springer was at least 4 for 4 in the 6th inning. I don't know if he continued to hit the ball. I did pick the A's ahead of the series. I have to stand by that, even though my eyes kind of told me something different today. I don't think the A's can slug with the Astros in the long run. I think a 10-5 final kind of proves that. The Astros put together hits when they needed them. They had some 2-out thunder today. They just looked like a complete baseball team. And I hate saying that because they are the villain. And I will root against them. I rooted for them literally last year in the World Series. So I'll still root against them, though. I boo every time they come on the screen. So I picked the A's, and I'm standing by my pick of the A's because I just want new blood. I want A's. Yeah. I want Padres. Screw the Marlins. But I want some new blood. We've had the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Astros and the Cardinals year after year after year. That's what made the Nationals so refreshing last year. These were not, Juan Soto was not an October stalwart. He was just the new kid, So we don't have those stories. So that I guess that's why I picked the A's, But my eyes tell me Houston's better, and I would not be shocked. So I've got Yankees, A's for my ALCS, and you've got the complete opposite, Rays and Astros.
Yeah. And for that matter, if the Twins had made it, I actually probably would have gone with the A's. Again, it's just that factor of the Astros. I know it's 2020. That's all I'm going to say. It's 2020. So the crappiest picks have got to make it. So, and this is foreshadowing. So in the National League, you know what? I mean, the Dodgers, they just keep making the World Series. Thank God they haven't been winning it, but they were the best team in the majors again this year. They dispatched the Brewers with ease and no mercy. The Padres are great. Don't get me wrong. And again, like I said earlier, I would not be surprised if the Padres beat the Dodgers, especially it is a short series still. It's 5 games. Padres are fully capable of doing it. But the way and Brewers weren't good hitters, I get it. But the Dodgers pitching just really looks good right now. Kershaw was, we all know about his playoff struggles, and he went out there and threw 8 whatever shutout innings, and he looked like vintage Kershaw in the regular season. And, the monkey's not off his back by any stretch, but if he's found something in the playoffs that he can rely on, you got to give the distinct advantage to the Dodgers. So until they show those chinks in the armor again in the playoffs, I got to go with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
2026.
I don't have anything to add because I echo every one of your thoughts there. The Padres absolutely could do it, but the Dodgers still, it's hard to beat Buehler, Kershaw, and May. And one of them you're going to have to beat twice. I think it's Buehler. I think Buehler's starting game 1. So you might have to beat him twice if he comes back on short rest because there's no days off. But I think that's what makes it really difficult. And chances are Dodgers are going to win 2 out of those 3 games at least. So I'm with you there. I think the Dodgers are going to do it. And it's funny because you shift to the other series and Atlanta suddenly becomes the playoff savvy team. I mean, they've been in the playoffs for each of the last 3 years, I want to say now. And they're playing a true upstart team in the Marlins. When we were making jokes about the Marlins and COVID, we did not think they'd be in the playoffs. But I think in the long run, I think the Marlins are going to get waxed by the Braves. I just think Atlanta is just going to beat the crap out of them. They're just way better of a team. They're better. I get that the Marlins have some pitching and timely hitting. But, I want to say it only gets you so far, but we're Giants fans, and we've seen it win you a World Series. So, good pitching and timely hitting might come through for the Marlins, but I can't do anything but pick the Braves in the other series.
Yeah. No, me too. I'm going with the Braves. And, I know there's a lot of Marlins fans out there. Well, maybe there's not a lot of fans. There are some Marlins fans out there who also can't say more than 3 players on their roster, I imagine. But I know they keep making this big deal of the fact that, this is only their 3rd time in the playoffs. The previous 2 times they won the World Series, and now they've won their first series here. So they are 7-0 in their history of playoff series. They have not lost a playoff series, but they've also never won their division. So the previous 2, of course, were via the wild card. So it's interesting because, the Giants had a very similar run because they excluded the wild card from this. So I'm going to exclude the wild card from the Giants, but they won 9 consecutive series, excluding the wild card. So the Giants know they've been there. Of course, they did it over a 3-year period as opposed to 23-year period. So it's a little with not a single player on those rosters from back then now, right? Completely removed, while the Giants obviously had some continuity. So, but again, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like you said,
right?
A light hitting, weak hitting team. There's none of the magic from their 2003 and 1997 years. So
Josh Beckett is not walking through that door.
Yeah. Edgar Renteria, where are you? Yeah.
Right.
So see, he brought that magic to the Giants in 2010. I don't see that happening. I think the Braves are too good in all facets. So yeah, I'm going to take the Braves too. So
on the Marlins, real quick.
Yeah.
Check out the franchises that they've beaten in the playoffs. The Giants, the Braves, the Indians, the Giants.
Yeah.
The Cubs.
Times, I know.
And the Yankees and the Cubs again. Every one of those franchises is at least 117 years old. So this Marlins team that's never won their division is beating teams that have been around since Charlton Heston was born. I mean, it's just amazing. Like that they didn't run into the Nationals somewhere along the way, or that they didn't run into, some other expansion. I can't think of any other expansion teams right now in the National League. The Padres along the way or something like that. That every single team that they've beaten has this storied history. And here are the Marlins, which are like, whatever. So I mean, it wouldn't be shocking, but it's just always fascinated me looking at those franchises that they beat because every one of them is a tentpole franchise. Giants, Cubs, Indians, Yankees.
Yeah. No, it's true. So they do have that on their side, but again, that's just from a historical standpoint. There's very little connection other than paper, right? Than to this team. So,
all right. So who you got in the World Series?
Yeah. So the reason we're going to go ahead and get our World Series participants pick is because I'm going out to sea on Friday, and I'm going to be gone for a week. So the Division Series won't be over by then, but by the time I get back, the Championship Series will be wrapping up, if not wrapped up. So we're going to go ahead and move on with that next pick. So we have, I have Tampa Bay and Houston in the ALCS. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? Because one of us could be Ofer, and it doesn't matter what we pick, right? Because we're also opposites. So that would be really interesting. Or we could be 1-1. But anyway, so Tampa Bay and Houston, and I told you about foreshadowing earlier. It's 2020.
Oh my God.
I know. I know this is crazy, Eric, and it's stupid. Man. I am going with a rematch of the World Series in 2017.
Wow.
I know.
Who was on the show, he just tweeted me earlier today. He said he's like, but doesn't the whole world want to see the Dodgers beat the Astros in the World Series for that revenge? No.
I want to see the A's against the Rays. That's what I want to see, right? Yeah. I don't want to see Yankees and Astros. I don't want to see the Astros or the Yankees in the World Series. So on the National League side, I'm going with the Dodgers again because I think they are so much better than the Marlins, and they're still a lot better than the Braves. If they get past the Padres, I just think, especially in a 7-game series, you just pointed out all of those factors so succinctly. It's, you got Buehler and Kershaw and May, and you got this lineup that just doesn't quit. They just mash the ball. And so in the 7-game series, it starts to even out a little, not even out, but really dominate on the stronger team. So I'm going Astros and Dodgers, and that just makes me sick because that is the worst World Series that I could have imagined coming into this picture. Honestly, it really is. As of right now, I got to see like A's or Rays versus the Padres or the Braves, even the Marlins, whatever.
Just not the Dodgers again.
Just not the Dodgers. Again. Anyone but LA and Houston, and that's unfortunately what I'm going with. So,
I obviously I'm not taking Houston because I think I took the A's and Dodgers, so I also have a World Series rematch. Mine's from 1988.
Yes,
but I don't think anybody, the corpse of Kirk Gibson's probably not coming through that door. So I chose the A's. So I am somewhat regretting choosing the A's to win it all after watching game 1 of this division series. But I'm not a hot take guy. I don't knee-jerk react all the time. So I'll just stay the course and expect that the A's are going to get it right. And I think the A's win it all against the Dodgers in 7 games. And I'm probably dead wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't give my World Series pick, and we'll re-pick, by the way, because we'll be having another show before the World Series starts, and we'll know the competitors then. But as of right now, with our picks, I mean, either one sucks, but of course, one sucks more than the other, and that's the Dodgers. But I do think the Dodgers are better than the Astros. The Astros won't be cheating this year, and I think there is an element to that revenge. I think the Dodgers would be completely motivated to try and destroy the Astros, and their pitching and hitting are just as good or better than ever, and they have just all that postseason experience from the last 7 years. But so, the Astros have a lot. But
okay, so I've gotten into this discussion. Then we'll move on to the Giants. I've gotten into this discussion. Is it better to have the Dodgers win it all in this weird shortened year than to just not have them win it? Because I get the thought that Dodgers fans will always know. But like you interact with Dodger fans, I interact with Dodger fans. They're not going to care. If they win it all, they're not going to care that it's 2020. They're not going to care that it's the shortened COVID season. They're like, we won it all. And everybody will be like, yeah, but it was a shortened season. They'll be like, we don't care, because they won't. They won't care. Yeah. I'd rather see them go down in flames. But it would be something if Houston were to win the World Series with a losing record in the regular season.
That would be crazy. And unfortunately, the bad thing about that is, you already had Correa popping off after the division series saying like, what are y'all going to say now? Or something to that effect. And it's like, winning a 3-game series doesn't vindicate you guys. Like, it doesn't mean you can't win 2 out of 3. That's not what anyone was saying about the cheating.
You also don't get to have a chip on your shoulder if you're a cheater.
If
you
you're
don't get to have a chip.
All those people that are mad at us for breaking ethics and cheating, screw you. Look what we're doing. It's like, you didn't justify anything.
Nope.
So, yeah, I mean, if they were to win the World Series, then, oh my God, talk about, Correa and others just be like with their chest out, just going, what's up?
Insufferable.
It would be insufferable. And I know some of the Astros fans would be like, oh, we've been vindicated. I don't care what you say about 2017. We did it again. And this time it's definitely real and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it stinks. I don't like my picks. I want your pick to happen. I wouldn't mind the A's winning. That's okay with me. I don't care. Again, we talked about this last week. It's like the A's are like the redheaded stepchild where their marketing team does this, but even my friends that are A's fans do this to me all the time. They'll text and tweet at me or Facebook message me or whatever, go, hey, about the A's. Oh, the Giants didn't make it. And I'm like, yeah, good for them. I'm happy for them. Like, it's this weird rivalry that to Giants fans doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, good for you, Oakland A's. That's fantastic. Call us when you win a couple rings. So it's just funny. It's like the A's.
It's got to be.
World Series wouldn't bother me at all. I wouldn't.
Not at all. It's the whole San Francisco Oakland dynamic in general, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, Oakland always feels like people from Oakland feel like they. And I know I'm not from the Bay Area, so don't rip my head off, people. But people from Oakland feel like they have something to prove. And people from San Francisco feel like the fact that they're in San Francisco means they've already proved what they have to prove. Yeah, and I think that's where it comes from. And the Oakland is always just going to have that little brother stepchild, oh my God, I need the love type thing. Because I don't hate. Why can you hate the A's? What's there to hate? I mean, their stadium's a toilet and they never spend money. But I mean, what else is there to hate? You can't hate the players.
Oh man. So yeah, this will be fun to watch. I think we have another ALDS game, right? That just started or is about to start. We have
it just started. Yankee game.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So anyway, the purpose of this episode is really to review the postseason, give our picks. There's a little bit of Giants news. We could talk about it for an hour, but that would deal with so many what ifs and what do they need and all stuff like that. So I just want to address a couple of things that popped up this week. Zaidi and Larry Bear and others had their end of year press conference over Zoom. And, there's just a couple of select quotes and Eric and I can talk about this, but Zaidi sees the Giants 2020 season as a sign of progress. I mean, yes, I would concur. We talked about it last week that even though they missed the playoffs by literally the skin of their teeth, 1 run, 1 win, 1 bounce, it still was better than the last couple of years, which is a really good sign. Asked about needs, Zaidi said that he always felt the Giants were 1 left-handed bat short. And so he hopes to add a veteran to the bullpen mix as well. And then, of course, he stated that starting pitching is a big need. And really that's addressing the free agents that they may not be able to retain this year. And that's going to be kind of sad because, Drew Smiley and Gossman and others that proved very worthy this year, even though Smiley was injured at the beginning of the year, you could see them as being very valuable pieces to the starting staff next year, especially now that, Cueto has shown some serious tread wear, I'd say, this year. The shark is gone, obviously. Logan Webb had some serious mental issues or whatever it was coming down the stretch. So everything's up in the air in terms of their starting rotation. So, I mean, I think he's going to make it a priority to hold on to those guys, but at the same time, you're probably going to have bigger bidders come in and get those guys just based on the small sample size. And they're $80 million. That's the estimate. They're going to be $80 million under the CBT tax or the collective bargaining tax. And so that is the largest room that they've had in years because they're getting all these old contracts off the decks. And we all understand what's happening, right? It's all those trades and claiming players off waivers, and he turns, free agent signings into 3 minor leaguers. I mean, he's been doing a good job with all of that magic, and it takes time for that to develop, and not everyone's going to be a home run. But in the same time, he's reducing that payroll. So when they do want to spring for that prize free agent, they'll have that ability to do it. But I don't know. Is there anything? Oh, and the final thing was that COVID-19 obviously affected the bottom line for all the sports and all the businesses and the economy in general. But baseball didn't have any ticket revenue this year. They're going to have the playoff TV package, but that's about it. So teams are going to have less money next year, and it may impact the next few years. Now, overall, that might depress the market value of everyone, but at the same time, it's going to limit how teams can spend, at least if it were a normal year. So a big left-handed bat, Eric. I mean, who do you think they specified that it wasn't like a starter. They said it would be a utility platoon guy. So they were talking about like Tommy La Stella. They were talking about a left-sided infielder that bats left-handed. And so I was like, well, gee, how is that going to push you across the finish line? I don't know. I just that's such a small addition. I don't see how that's going to help that much.
I mean, pitching, you mentioned it with the Gausman and Smiley. I would think that would be the priority. I said it before we came on. Literally everything that's listed: pitching, a left-handed bat, it's veteran bullpens. It's the same thing every team wants every year, and the Giants do lack some of those things. I mean, we Zaidi, I agree, signs of progress, but we can't discount the fact that Zaidi's willing to go after the big name. I don't know who the big name free agents are this year, but he's also willing to go after him. I mean, he courted Bryce Harper. They were willing to throw Bryce Harper a ton of money, and he decided he wanted Philly instead. Joke's on him, I guess. But Zaidi's not afraid to go after the big guys, so I think that he'll stay active while doing his under-the-radar moves. And the fact that they have $80 million, the Giants strike me as the type of team that might say, okay, we have $80 million, but since we only made this much last year, let's pretend it's only $60 million.
Yeah.
And we'll utilize that money down the road if we make it back up next year. Meanwhile, they never really make it back up and probably never utilize it. But with the contracts coming off the books over the next couple of years, that will help too with the spending. So, I mean, Farhan, I did listen to or read some of this quotes from him from that Zoom call, and it just standard stuff. I trust him at this point. So, whatever he decides the direction to go, I feel like the Giants, they're not like on the doorstep of greatness or anything like that, but you can definitely see the seeds of progress being sown underneath. Like you said, the deals to get guys like Yastrzemski, Solano, even just to get Smiley and Gausman during this offseason. And Gausman loved the experience of being a Giant. He sounds like he wants to come back. Some of these guys may decide to come back for less of a price, which then tells other free agents, hey, this is a place I might want to play again. Mm-hmm. And so, that is really what needs. The Giants just need to become attractive again. I think that's the biggest deal. And Zaidi's kind of positioned to do that. And it's a little more difficult to do for the Giants than the Dodgers, because the Giants don't have an open checkbook. They're close to an open checkbook, but they don't have the full open checkbook. You can't sell, I know taxes are a big reason people don't want to come to California. And it's like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, we got the Golden Gate Bridge and da-da-da. But in LA, you can be like, you'll be a star, man. You'll make it up in endorsements here, 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 and here. And you can't say that to a player coming to the Giants. So Farhan's got to show that he can work his magic without the allure of the bright lights of the big, big, big city. So I don't know. I saw signs of progress. I like what Zaidi had to say afterwards, and Giants are headed in the right direction. So, as you said, we'll go over in the offseason different areas that need a look and need some help, and who some of the players that are out there are, because I don't have the foggiest idea. I'm lucky that I know what day of the week it is right now. I mean, 2020 has been the longest decade we've ever lived through.
It really has been the longest decade of a year. And he also talked about the closers, but he wasn't as definitive about it. He said, we still might have a closer, kind of by committee. But I mean, again, I know next year won't be as many playoff spots most likely, but this year, if they had even a reasonable closer, they would have been in the playoffs. And, that's how close they were. So they also lose Tony. Well, I shouldn't say they lose. Tony Watson is a free agent as well. So he's a valuable part of that pen. So yeah, they have a lot of things to address, and we'll definitely talk about those most of the time after the postseason is over. All right, so we're getting close to ending here, but I did want to go ahead and play a little video. Many of you may have seen this already, but it's from the San Francisco Giants, narrated by our own Mike Krukow, and this is just a big thank you to the Giants fans for the 2020 season.
Giants fans, you made this 2020 season remarkable. Our gates are closed, so what do? You don orange and black at any time. You make garlic fries at home. You continued the tradition of sharing the great story of Giants baseball.
Let's go, Giants!
Go Giants, we're going to beat this together.
You fill the ballpark anyway. We miss having you here, of course. Miss seeing you catch foul balls, giving Lucille a hug, bringing the first-timers. But within Oracle Park, know that we can feel your spirit. Feel your ovation after a game-ending strikeout, after a walk-off, a nice grab, after a win. We can all feel it. You are with us.
For every pitch,
every play,
every memory.
Way back there, still going. And goodbye!
Johnny Barrels stays hot.
And you stretch, he makes the catch! A grand slam, number 300. Out of here! Listen to these cutouts.
You were with us when the game was on the line. You were with us when we celebrated.
And we know you're still with us now.
We always say that you, Giants fans, are the best in the game.
Play ball.
Play ball. Play ball.
Play ball!
This season you rose to new heights, and despite those closed gates, you showed up. We miss you and hope that we will all be reunited very soon.
So yeah, that was a nice little video, a little kind of a snapshot, a yearbook review, I guess. But
Yeah, I hadn't watched that before.
yeah, no, it was nice. You know, it would have been a lot nicer making the playoffs. But it really, when you look back at this, I mean, Eric, you know, we don't know what 2021 is going to bring, and that's the problem. We may be starting in April with the same situation. We really don't know. We really don't know. And I would hope that by the end of the year, you know, the gates are open again for fans, because doing this 2 years in a row is going to be, you know, a lot harder. You know, as far as sports and theater and entertainment and just everything that's part of our lives, you know, thinking of losing that much for a year and a half or 2 years is just going to be insane. But, you know, the realities are out there, and I'm not going to get into specifics. Everybody knows about COVID, but, you know, there's a really good chance that, you know, we're not going to have enough protection for the larger community for well into 2021. So that may play into what Major League Baseball will do, or it may just vary by locale. And of course, as we all know, San Francisco is very strict and, you know, science-based, and they're going to err on the side of caution. So I wouldn't be surprised if next year you see, you know, the Rangers and Astros opening up their ballpark to 50% capacity and the Giants are still at 0. But I just have to say that it was a really weird year, but I felt honored that, you know, was able to cover 4 games this year in this pandemic. It was a very unique opportunity, very strange way to watch a baseball game, but it was still kind of cool. Something I can look back on and go, wow, that was weird.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm legit jealous that you got to do that, because you are one of the few hundred people who got to do that this year.
Yeah. It was really unique, and I really want to thank the Giants for still, you know, giving us tiny little podcast, you know, sliver of that that experience to bring it, back to you guys. So, and in fact, I have some video I wanted to put together. I just haven't gotten to it yet because my work has been so crazy. I did a kind of vlog style video. I have to edit it, of like arriving at the park, walking to the park, getting the pass, walking to security, walking up the ramp, check, all that stuff. So I'm going to put that together, probably just like a 2-minute, 3-minute thing. So look for that. So as we wrap up here, coming up, of course, we got the division series that started today. The Yankees and the Rays, I believe, are tied at 1 right now. That's what I saw. Yeah, tied at 1 in the top of the first. They're exchanging blows already. The ALCS, the NLDS starts tomorrow. Like you said at the top of the show, all series, these series both play 5 consecutive games if needed, of course. No off days because there's no travel. They just switch uniforms and probably not dugouts, but switch.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, probably not because of COVID reasons, and keep to your own dugouts for the whole series. The ALCS starts October 11th, I believe that's Sunday, and the NLCS starts next Monday, October 12th, and then the World Series starts October 20th. So I'll be getting off the boat on October 16th. So yeah, it'll be kind of when the CSs are starting to wrap up. So we're not going to record until probably just before the World Series, but it's going to be cool. So yeah, I would say go to nautiluslive.org. We're going to be streaming out our marine deep sea research stuff. It's really, really cool stuff. We're going to go look at octopus mothers that are brooding their young, and a dead whale that fell to the seafloor that's covered in scavengers, and go back there. It's October. It's near Halloween. Why not look at something ghoulish, kind of cool.
Yeah, I was telling my stepdaughter about the stuff you guys were doing, and she's like, "That's so fascinating. That's so exciting." Because it all just started from, when are you recording tomorrow? Oh, well, we're going later because Chad's got this thing that he's basically promoting and telling people what they're going to do, and get people excited about it again. And I showed her all sorts of videos from your past stuff, and it was
cool.
really cool to see. Yeah, it was cool to see. So she was fascinated. She's like, "Oh, one day, once upon a time, I wanted to be a marine biologist." She's only 23. I'm like, "You still can."
23, yeah. Oh my God, totally.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what I was telling her. But it's fascinating. I wish you well in your journey. I hope that the seas are calm for y'all.
Oh, yeah. That's the problem, is that the long range forecast has some really, really large swells coming in from Alaska on about Saturday. We start our cruise into Sunday. And I get picked up Friday morning in Monterey. We don't even start diving until like Saturday after midnight. So we might get a day of diving in before the big swell hits. And it's probably going to wipe out 3 days of our cruise if the models hold. Just like crying. No matter how many successes we've had with this outfit, we've had so many problems with technology and weather. We've had so many dives taken from us. So it is what it is. That's what happens when you go out to sea. You can't control Mother Nature, and you just deal with it. But we'll get some stuff done, just maybe not as much as we thought. And so originally I was going to lead the cruise from shore, but they invited me out because they're very restricted with COVID. They have skeleton crews, so I'm the only one of our science team going because I'm chief scientist. But I'm starting to rethink that and going, maybe I should stay home. So I'm not rocking and rolling for 3 straight days.
I mean, do you have to wear a mask and all that during the trip, or are you guys?
Yeah, so I'm quarantining right now, 14-day quarantine with my family. Not that we went anywhere anyway, except the store. So we're doing curbside. I had to take a COVID test. I did that, self-administered, by the way. That was fun.
I wish I could have done that one.
I know, right? Which was negative, of course. And when I get on board, it's every day. I have to answer a questionnaire, temperature, PPE, masks, everything. Yeah, it's a bubble. It's good though. It's great because everybody has been. This is going to be the 4th cruise. They're already at sea right now, and it's been almost 2 months, and there's been no COVID. So
that's good.
Yeah, NBA's working too, right? And that would be a much harder thing to deal with, but
it's working better than the White House.
Whoa, White House has more than a lot of countries. Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Leave that bomb over there for now.
Leave that bomb over there. Yeah, trying to get too political here. That'll do it for episode 210 of the TortureCast. You can follow us collectively at TortureCast or individually at ChadK21 for myself, or at 2 Out Hits for Eric. Of course, if you're watching the video, you see those handles right now. We're streaming this on Facebook Live. It'll be up on Facebook. I'll try and download it and put it on YouTube as well. You can like us on Facebook. Please do that. It'll be embedded in our website as well as our podcast on TortureCast.com. Willie couldn't make it, so you can reach him at Willie Dills. He had a lot of streaming today. That's about it, Eric. Did I miss anything?
No, not at all.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun. This is the playoffs. No Giants, so at least this sans heart stress for me.
Go Padres. That's where I'm at. Go
Enjoy
Padres, go A's.
Yeah.
Those are my really
Go Padres, go A's. I agree with you, man. Go Padres, go A's, go Rays, and go. I don't care about Braves, Marlins. Anyway,
I don't
all right,
know.
well, that'll do it for episode 210. We'll see you probably in about a week and a half ish to 2 weeks for episode 211. Until then, please stay safe. Please wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, do your part. You can still live life with those restrictions. Anyway, we'll see you next time. A boom.